You see, something's going to happen.
What? What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
What?
I understand how you feel. You see, it's all very clear to me now.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. In this episode, we will be discussing sacred solar temples. The sun has been revered across cultures and millennia as a life-giving force and cosmic power. From the banks of the Nile to the high Andes, ancient civilizations built monumental temples aligned with the heavens to honor their sun deities. These solar temples were not only architectural marvels, but also centers of religion, science, and legend. In this episode, we delve into the history, symbolism, and lore of 5 famed sun temples around the world. The Temple of Amun-Ra at Karnak in Egypt, India's Konark Sun Temple, the Pyramid of the Sun at Tiwanaku in Mexico, the Caligasaya Complex and the Gate of the Sun at Tiwanaku in Bolivia, and the Coricancha Temple of the Sun in Cusco, Peru. Each site's story illuminates the people who built it, their beliefs and rituals, the astronomical alignments encoded in stone, and the myths and miracles that echo through time. These temples not only reflect advanced ancient knowledge, from precise solstice alignments to intricate cosmologies, but have also become touchstones for modern culture, identity, and spiritual practice. We will visit each temple in turn, uncovering its origins, decoding its symbols, and reliving the legends that make it a sacred solar heritage of humanity. And first stop is the Temple of Amun-Ra. The Temple of Amun-Ra, at Karnak, lies on the east bank of the Nile at ancient Thebes, modern Luxor, and is the largest religious complex ever built. Its construction spanned over 1,500 years, reflecting the rise and glory of New Kingdom Egypt. Modest shrines existed on the site by the Middle Kingdom, 20th to 19th century BCE, when Pharaoh Senusret I built a white chapel to Amun. As Thebes became Egypt's capital, local deity Amun was elevated and fused with the sun god Ra as Amun-Ra, king of the gods. Successive pharaohs of the New Kingdom, 1550 to 1070 BCE, vastly expanded Karnak into a walled city of temples. The mighty 18th dynasty rulers, Amenhotep I, Thutmose I, Hatshepsut, and Thutmose III, laid out grand pylon courts and famed hypostyle hall with 134 soaring papyrus columns. Each added obelisks and sanctuaries. For example, Hatshepsut erected towering obelisks of red granite, one still standing, 30 meters high, and Thutmose III built the festival hall. In the 19th dynasty, Seti I and Ramses II completed the hypostyle hall, adorning it with intricately carved hieroglyphs and battle scenes. By the late period, the complex included multiple precincts for Amun, Mut, Montu, and more, with Pharaoh Nectanebo I adding the massive outer enclosure walls in the first pylon. Even into Greco-Roman times, rulers contributed. A grand gate by Ptolemy III stands at the Temple of Khonsu's entrance. Karnak thus evolved as a palimpsest of Egyptian art and architecture, its layers of construction symbolizing continuity of divine kingship. Karnak was dedicated primarily to Amun-Ra, and its very location and layout were rich in cosmic symbolism. Recent geoarchaeological studies suggest the earliest temple area was on a natural rise originally surrounded by Nile floodwaters, resembling the primeval mound from Egyptian creation myths. As inundation waters receded annually, this ground would appear like a mound emerging from chaos, reinforcing Karnak's mythic role as a site of creation. The temple's design was deliberately orientated to the skies. The main axis is aligned to capture the winter solstice sunrise. Every December 21st at dawn, sunlight pierces through the eastern gateway and beams straight down the main aisle to illuminate the sanctuary of Amun-Ra. This breathtaking event, witnessed for nearly 4,000 years, symbolizes the rebirth of the sun at the shortest day. Ancient Egyptian astronomer priests likely used instruments like the Merkhet, the star gauge, and observed stars like Sirius to achieve this precise alignment. Karnak's great temple thus functioned as a giant solar observatory marking the solstice, a manifestation of Mat on Earth. Indeed, the temple's name, Abed Isud, the most select of places, hints at its sacred status. Beyond the solstice, Karnak was the stage for the grand Opet festival each year. Statues of Amen, his consort Mut, and son Kansu were ferried along the Nile or the Avenue of Sphinxes to Luxor Temple, reenacting divine renewal and cyclic rejuvenation of kingship. This festival coincided with the summer Nile flood and reflected cosmic order and agricultural cycles. The priests of Karnak, adept in astronomy, maintained calendars and timing of rituals, for example, orienting other temples like Hatshepsut's Der el-Bahri to winter solstice sunrise. Thus, Karnak was not only a cult center, but a cosmic clock and spiritual powerhouse linking heaven and earth. Entering Karnak, one passes along the Avenue of Sphinxes, a processional road flanked by hundreds of ram-headed sphinx statues leading to the first pylon. Inside the main precinct, courtyards and halls unfold in succession, drawing the visitor ever deeper and higher, a symbolic journey to the divine. The Great Hypostyle Hall, built by Seti I and Ramses II, astonishes with its forest of columns 70 feet tall, carved with sunken reliefs of the king worshipping Amun-Ra. Beyond lies the Holy of Holies, a dark granite sanctuary aligned with the rising solstice sun. In antiquity, this sanctuary housed Amun's cult statue, which only the high priest and pharaoh could approach. Surrounding it were subsidiary chapels and storage for the god's ceremonial bark. Karnak's walls and pillars are densely inscribed with hieroglyphic texts, from king's lists to epic battle scenes, effectively making it an encyclopedia in stone of Egypt's religion and history. Notably, Thutmose III's festival hall holds the Karnak Kings List, a procession of past kings who Thutmose honored. In another sector, reliefs of Merneptah's campaigns include the famous Israel Stele text. Also remarkable is the sacred lake within the precinct, dug under Thutmose III, symbolizing the primeval waters. It was used for ritual purification of priests and likely for observing star reflections. Near it, recent excavations even uncovered a planned workers' village, hinting at the community of priests, craftsmen, and laborers who sustained the cult. Karnak was an evolving sacred landscape, with each new ruler adding chapels, pylons, obelisks, or shrines to leave their pious mark. Even during periods of decline, the site remained venerated. In the late period and Ptolemaic era, old blocks were reused and new gates inserted, showing a continuous thread of sanctity. A little side note about the Israel Stele. The stele was carved for Pharaoh Merneptah, son and successor of Ramses II, late in Egypt's New Kingdom, the 19th dynasty. It is a little over 3 meters, about 10 feet high, of dark granite stone, and originally stood in the forecourt of Merneptah's mortuary temple on the west bank at Thebes, directly across the river from Karnak. It was discovered there in 1896 by the British archaeologist Flinders Petrie, who was clearing the ruins of the King's Temple when he realized that a large fallen block in the first court was a finely inscribed victory monument. The stone itself had a life before Merneptah. It began as a monument of Amenhotep III a century earlier. He had used it to celebrate his building works at his mortuary temple, Luxor Temple, and the third pylon at Karnak. Merneptah's artisans turned the stele around and carved their own text on the rough reverse, facing it outward against his new temple wall. In other words, this one stone physically carries 2 layers of history, the golden age of Amenhotep III and the later, more embattled age of Merneptah. At the top is a carved lunette scene that still preserves traces of its original yellow, red, and blue pigments. It shows the triad Amun, Mut, and Kansu. Amun, chief god of Karnak and often fused with the sun as Amun-Ra, hands a sword of victory to Merneptah, while Mut and Kansu stand behind as divine witnesses. This little panel visually ties the stele back to Karnak itself. The same gods whose cult was centered in the Amun precinct are here, empowering the king's campaigns. The text that flows down beneath is, in effect, a long hymn to that divine royal partnership. The inscription dates to year 5 of Merneptah around 1208 BCE. Most of its 28 lines are not about Canaan at all, but about a dramatic war on Egypt's western frontier. Merneptah boasts that he crushed a coalition of Libyan tribes, the Libu, and their northern allies, an early wave of the peoples we now group under the label Sea Peoples. The stele describes them as a threat that came on Egypt from the west, but claims they were utterly destroyed, their chiefs killed, their camps burned, their seed wiped out. Only in the closing stanza does the text pivot eastward to Canaan, then part of the Egyptian imperial sphere. In a compact poetic list, it names Syrian and Canaanite polities that have been subdued. Hatti and Haru, broad regional terms for the Syro-Palestinian zone, then more local units like Canaan, the cities of Ashkelon, Gezer, and Yanoam, and finally a group called Israel. It is the single line that has made the stele famous far beyond Egyptology. In almost every modern translation, the line is rendered along the lines of, Israel is laid to waste, his seed is not. This is standard bragging language for Egyptian royal propaganda, not a literal extermination notice. When pharaohs describe cities made as though they never existed or lands whose seed is not, they are using stylized hyperbole, crops destroyed, warriors killed, and tribute cut off, all to magnify the king's glory. This stele contains the earliest known reference to Israel, dating back to around 1205 BCE. In recent years, some scholars have proposed that there may be even earlier references to Israel in Egyptian records, potentially dating back to around 1400 BCE. However, the Merneptah stele remains the most widely accepted and recognized reference to Israel in ancient texts. Given Karnak's immense antiquity, it accumulated rich myth and legend. The alignment of the temple with the winter solstice was not only an astronomical feat, but laden with meaning. The annual birth of the sun in Amun Shrine reaffirmed the pharaoh's divine mandate to maintain cosmic order. According to new research, the choice of Karnak's site on a raised terrace amid Nile channels made it literally a sacred island, identified with the creation mound in Egyptian belief. This suggests that priests deliberately linked geography with theology. As Nile floods rose, the temple's base would appear to emerge from waters, reenacting creation. In Egyptian lore, Amun-Ra was a mysterious, transcendent creator who could also manifest as the sun disk at midday. It was said that each night, Amun-Ra sailed the underworld only to be reborn at dawn, a cycle the Karnak sanctuary enabled through its solar channeling. There are a few miracle tales in Egyptian records about Karnak specifically. The god's statue was carried on the bark and would nod or move to answer questions, likely via priests. One legend holds that Alexander the Great, after conquering Egypt, traveled to the Libyan desert oracle of Amun to be confirmed as divine son of Amun. Karnak, as Amun's chief temple, likely also inspired such narratives of divine legitimation. In modern times, locals and travelers described a kind of awe or energy at Karnak's solstice sunrise, a meeting of ancient spirit and present wonder as the halls glow gold for a few moments in midwinter. Karnak also ties into wider esoteric lore. Some authors speculate that Karnak, the Giza pyramids, and other ancient sites lie on global ley lines or energy grids. For instance, it's often noted that the Great Pyramid in Karnak might align on certain longitudinal arcs. Though such claims are unproven, they feed the aura of Karnak as a node of Earth's sacred geometry. Today, Karnak stands as a magnificent open-air museum and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its gargantuan ruins, from the fallen topple of its first pylon to the standing obelisks and colossi, continuing to undergo excavation, preservation, and study by Egyptologists from around the world. In recent years, archaeologists have made exciting discoveries. In 2020, a cache of 26th Dynasty gold jewelry was unearthed in a hidden recess, In 2025, a comprehensive sediment analysis revealed new insights into the site's origin, pushing initial occupation back to the Old Kingdom, 2300 to 2200 BCE. Conservation efforts have stabilized walls and cleaned blackened ceiling soot in lesser-known chambers, revealing brightly painted reliefs in the Temple of Khonsu and elsewhere. Meanwhile, Konark remains a place of living heritage. At dawn on every winter solstice, hundreds of visitors, locals, tourists, and spiritual pilgrims gather in the chill to witness the sun's rays strike Amun's sanctuary, just as it did in pharaonic times. The event is treated with reverence and often accompanied by cultural performances. By night, Konark hosts a popular sound and light show, narrating its history amid illuminating ruins. In Egyptian popular culture, Konark and the connected Luxor Temple have come to symbolize national pride. Yet, standing in Konark's great court under a sky of blazing stars, one can still feel the numinous atmosphere that ancient worshippers must have felt. The sense of communion with the cosmos in the most select of places. Konark's legacy is thus twofold: a treasure trove for scientific inquiry into ancient civilization, and an enduring sacred site that continues to align human consciousness with the rhythms of the sun. And now, we will head on over to the Konark Sun Temple in India. On the eastern shores of India, facing the Bay of Bengal, stands the Konark Sun Temple, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a crowning achievement of ancient Hindu architecture. Built in the 13th century CE, Konark, from Kona, meaning angle, and Arka, meaning sun, is designed as a colossal stone chariot for the sun god Surya, complete with wheels and horses carved from rock. This temple encapsulates the cosmology, artistic brilliance, and devotional fervor of the Eastern Ganga kingdom, while also being wrapped in legend and mystery. The Sun Temple of Konark was constructed around 1250 CE under the patronage of King Narasimha Deva I of Eastern Ganga dynasty. At its zenith, the Ganga kingdom had defeated Muslim invaders and flourished in Odisha, or Kalinga, and Narasimha Deva likely built Konark to commemorate military triumphs and assert cultural glory. According to Sanskrit inscriptions and medieval texts, the temple's core structure was 229 feet tall. It was oriented eastward so that at dawn the sun's first rays would strike the main altar and the idol of Surya. The entire complex was conceived as Surya's chariot rising from the sea, symbolizing the sun's daily journey across the sky. It is built from 3 types of stone: locally quarried condylite for the main body and harder chlorite and laterite stones for certain sculptures and foundations. The base of the temple is the chariot's platform, edged with 24 giant stone wheels, about 9 feet in diameter. Each wheel is exquisitely carved with spokes and hubs bearing designs, and they famously double as sundials. One can tell the time by the shadow cast by the spokes. 7 stone horses appear to pull the chariot. This integrated symbolism of time and motion is unique to Konark. Contemporary records like the text Madhavi Kanakachampu, if I'm saying that correctly, praise Konark's magnificent, suggesting it was originally called Kanaka Surya Mandir, Golden Sun Temple, because it was said to have been plated in copper or gilt on some parts, gleaming in the sunlight. The temple had a main sanctum, now collapsed, and a still-standing Jagamohana assembly hall about 128 feet tall, whose pyramidal roof is intact and displays tiered sculptures of musicians, dancers, and celestial beings. The construction techniques must have been advanced. Some of the massive stone blocks weigh around 35 tons each. There is a famous local legend that a gigantic lodestone, a magnet, sat atop the temple to hold the structure together, and that it interfered with ships' compasses at sea. While not verified, it speaks to the awe the temple inspired. By the late 16th century, the main sanctum had tragically collapsed, possibly due to structural stress or, according to some accounts, after being damaged in an earthquake or by lightning. European mariners in the 17th century knew Konark as the Black Pagoda for its dark silhouette on the coast. British antiquarians in the 19th century cleared sand and vegetation to reveal Konark's ruins and even excavated the buried sculpture of Surya. Restoration in the 20th century by Indian authorities stabilized the Jagamohana by filling it with sand to prevent further collapse. Today, what remains is still imposing. The audience hall with its elaborate exterior and parts of the mandapa and many detached sculptures arranged in a site museum. The 24 wheels correspond to the 24 hours of the day, and perhaps the 24 nights of the Hindu year, while the 8 spokes in each wheel make 8 intervals, possibly the praharas, the 3-hour periods. Thus, the wheels are functional sundials that can tell time accurately, a testimony to the astronomic knowledge encoded in the temple design. The 7 horses represent the days of the week and the 7 colors of sunlight. The temple is oriented east-west with the front door facing the sunrise over the ocean. In fact, the main Surya idol, now missing, likely removed to Puri for safety and antiquity, was said to receive the dawn rays. Flanking the temple are 3 subsidiary images of Surya carved in green chlorite stone, located on the 3 outer sides. They show Surya in different aspects, and notably, they catch the sun rays at dawn, noon, and afternoon, respectively. This means as the sun moves, one after another of these Surya reliefs is illuminated, symbolically tracking the sun's course through the sky. The iconography is purely Vedic. Surya is depicted standing riding a chariot with lotus flowers in both hands, attended by Usha and Pratyusha. The temple exterior is a profusion of carvings that illustrate the breadth of the medieval Odishan life and belief. Lower bas-reliefs show earthly themes: elephants marching in war procession, lions and mythical beasts guarding, hundreds of elephants in parades, scenes of courtly life, and possibly historical battle. Higher up are divine scenes, the gods and goddesses of the Hindu pantheon, heavenly asparagus dancing, and myriad erotic couples in amorous poses. Its erotic sculpture friezes are famous and likely symbolize the union of sun and earth, or the human microcosm in tune with the cosmic rhythm. One intriguing relief shows King Narasimha himself seated, receiving counsel from a sage. Another panel shows a giraffe, indicating trade contracts with Africa, as giraffes were gifts to India's sultanates from Africa in that era. The sheer detail led early European visitors to exclaim that every inch of the Konark Temple is covered with scripture, from large friezes to tiny intricate floral patterns. The sculptures even included celestial imagery. On the temple walls are carved Navagraha, the 9 planetary deities, as a set of reliefs above the entrance. This served as a protected talisman and an homage to Hindu astrology. In essence, Konark's artwork forms a Sanskrit encyclopedia in stone, encoding theology, time cycles, and worldly life as one unified creation under Surya's dominion. Devotees likely started to fill the temple at dawn to offer water oblations to the rising sun. The temple had a Navagraha slab at its entrance with carvings of the 9 planets. Priests would pray here first, as still done today, to avert planetary evils before approaching Surya. While the main idol of Surya is lost, descriptions indicate it might have been a colossal statue mounted on a magnetized iron rod to appear floating. This is part of lore, though not archaeologically confirmed. This temple was such an important pilgrimage that it features in ancient travel accounts. The 16th century Abul Fazl noted in Ain-i-Akbari as a famed Konark temple. The 16th century Abul Fazl noted it in Ain-i-Akbari as a famed Konark temple. Mythology surrounds Konark's origin. The first enduring legend is of Samba, son of Lord Krishna. Samba was cursed with leprosy, and to cure himself, he performed penance to Surya for 12 years at Dimitravan on the Khandrabhaga River. Pleased, Surya cured Samba of his disease, and Samba erected a sun temple in gratitude. This legend is explicitly tied to Konark. The Khandrabhaga River flows near the temple, and to this day, a festival called Samba Dashami in Odisha celebrates Samba's cure. Interestingly, historical records say one Samba Sun Temple existed in Pakistan too, and the Samba legend is associated with both, implying a pan-Indian myth of sun worship is a cure for skin diseases like leprosy. In Konark's context, the legend likely provided a divine rationale for the temple's sanctity and its healing reputation. Even into the 19th century, a ritual Mela fair on the Magha Saptami, the 7th day of the Hindu month of Magha, was held at the Chandrabhaga beach near Konark, where people bathe at sunrise for health, with a procession carrying an image of Surya to the river, a practice linked to Samba's story. Another popular lore around Konark's construction speaks of the 12-year building period under 1,200 artisans. When the massive Kapila stone top could not be lifted, a boy named Dharma, son of the chief architect, ingeniously solved this engineering problem and set the capstone. The 12-year-old prodigy leaped to his death from the temple top, sacrificing himself to protect his father and peers' reputation. This poignant tale, though not documented in text, it is told by local guides as an example of devotion and the tragic costs of great works. Konark has drawn intense study by archaeologists, historians, and even scientists interested in archaeoastronomy and engineering. The precise alignment of the temple with cardinal directions and the solar path has been verified. For example, researchers note that the wheels on the platform accurately represent time divisions, and even the spokes throw shadows marking equidistant intervals. A comparative study of sun temples notes that both are positioned to capture specific solar events. At Madhera, the equinoxes; at Konark, perhaps the solstices, indicating a conscious tradition of temple orientation in India. The iconography of the 9 planets at Konark have been studied in light of medieval Indian astronomy. Scholars find that the temple's sculptures reflect knowledge of the planets and cosmic deities, integrating them into temple ritual. One intriguing academic exploration involved geological and material analysis. The presence of iron beams and the hypothesis of a magnet atop led scientists to examine residual magnetism in the stones. Though the legendary lodestone hasn't been found, large iron discs and cramps used structurally have been documented. One theory is that an enormous iron girder inside the temple, acting as a chain, might have magnetized over time. In 2020, the Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, conducted ground-penetrating radar scans of Konark to assess buried remains, confirming that significant portions of the original sanctum foundation survive intact below ground. Conservation-wise, the ASI recently decided not to attempt rebuilding the fallen sanctum due to insufficient original stones and instead focus on preservation. Konark also attracts academics for the Sanskrit inscriptions on its premises, which record grants to the temple, including one that lists recipes for temple offerings and details of dance performances. These suggest Konark was a cultural hub where music and dance flourished in Surya's honor. Although active worship ceased centuries ago, Konark's cultural and spiritual legacy endures. Every year, the Konark Dance Festival is held in front of the illuminated temple, an iconic event where classical dancers perform in the open air, restoring, symbolically, the art patronage of the sun god. In modern India, Konark has become a symbol of Odisha's heritage. Its wheel adorns India's currency. The Sun Temple wheel is also depicted in India's national flag as the Ashoka Chakra, which is inspired by a different wheel, but Konark's wheel is often associated in popular imagination. Pilgrims still come on Magha Saptami to bathe at the sea at sunrise, believing in Surya's healing grace. The government has also declared Konark a site for solar science awareness. The temple's sundials and solar alignments offer educational opportunities, and a solar eclipse viewing event was organized there in recent years. On the esoteric side, New Age thinkers sometimes link Konark's energy to other global sun temples. Some claim Konark lies on a ley line that connects to Angkor Wat and other sun-aligned monuments, though this is speculative. What is undeniable is the comic resonance visitors feel. Many report that at dawn or sunset, as the sun rays ignite the reddish stones, Konark exudes a deep spirituality, a connection across time to those ancient worshippers waiting for the sun. As the art historian Stella Cramrich wrote, at Coricancha, the sun god once mounted his chariot. Though the god has departed, his great stone chariot remains, forever ready at the edge of time. Konark today is both a ruin and a living ode to the sun, a place where history, art, and myth converge to celebrate the eternal dance of the cosmos. And now as we wrap this one up, the next one will be the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, Mexico. In the ancient city of Teotihuacan, the Pyramid of the Sun soars above the Avenue of the Dead, a testament to the ambition and astronomical genius of a civilization still shrouded in mystery. Built nearly 2 millennia ago in central Mexico, this monumental pyramid, the largest structure in Teotihuacan, was a focal point of religion and likely dedicated to the sun or a powerful deity associated with it. Surrounded by myth, the later Aztecs believed this city was where the gods created the sun itself. The Pyramid of the Sun offers a fascinating case of how architecture, cosmology, and ceremony intersect in the pre-Hispanic Americas. Teotihuacan was a vast urban center that flourished between 100 BCE and 550 CE, reaching a peak population of over 100,000 and influencing all Mesoamerica. The Pyramid of the Sun was constructed in 2 major phases, with the first phase around 100 CE bringing it to near its current size. When completed by 200 CE, it measured about 225 meters on each side at the base and 65 meters tall, making it one of the largest pyramids in the world. Only Egypt's Great Pyramid of Khufu and Mexico's own Cholula Pyramid surpass it in volume. Unlike Egyptian pyramids, Teotihuacan are flat-topped, built as temples with monumental staircases. The Sun Pyramid's exterior was originally plastered and painted. Traces of red pigment suggest it gleamed with a reddish hue under the sun. It stands upon a massive platform and is oriented slightly north of west from the city's grid. The Teotihuacanos, in an extraordinary engineering feat, built the pyramid over a natural cave. In the 1970s, archaeologists discovered a tunnel leading to a cave directly beneath the pyramid center. The cave, likely a volcanic lava tube enlarged by humans, ended in a clover leaf-shaped set of chambers. This was possibly regarded as a sacred womb of the earth, a place of creation. The pyramid rising above may have marked this cave as the navel of the city or the place of the sun's birth in local cosmology. Offerings found within include pottery and symbols of water and fertility, implying that it was a ritual space. The building process used millions of tons of adobe bricks, rubble, and earth, faced with volcanic stone. Remarkably, the city's layout, including the Pyramid of the Sun, was carefully oriented 15.5 degrees clockwise from true north. This is not arbitrary. It aligns with important astronomical events. Research by scholars like Ivan Sprajak has shown that this orientation records sunrises and sunsets on specific dates. In fact, the Pyramid of the Sun is aligned to face the sunset on April 29th and August 12th, give or take a day, which are 260 days apart, correlating with the length of the sacred Mesoamerican calendar, 260 days. August 12th was a particularly significant date, as it corresponds to the start of the current Maya long count, August 13th, 3114 BCE. Thus, the pyramid was positioned to tie the solar year and the mythic time cycle together. Additionally, seen from the Pyramid of the Moon, the Sun Pyramid aligns with the peak of Cerro Gordo, a mountain to the north, and the setting sun on certain days. These alignments strongly suggest that Teotihuacan's builders intentionally embedded a calendar and cosmology in the city's urban plan, with the Pyramid of the Sun as the keystone of that grand design. We do not know the original name of the Pyramid of the Sun, nor which god it was dedicated to. No inscriptions naming that structure have survived. The Aztecs, arriving centuries after Teotihuacan's fall, gave it the romantic name, thinking it was devoted to the sun. It's plausible, given the alignment, that the pyramid did honor a solar deity or a sky deity. Some archaeologists theorize it may have been dedicated to Tlaloc, the rain storm god, given jars were depicting Tlaloc were found buried around it and imagery of water is present. Yet others argue a great goddess or local version of a sun warrior god was worshipped there. Regardless of the specific deity, the cosmic significance is clear. Teotihuacanos conceived this pyramid as an axis between the underworld, cave, earth, and heavens, used for grand rites that possibly involved sacrifices and feasts timed to the sun's passage. The city's urban access point to the sun setting and rising on key dates, meaning on those days, watchers on the pyramid or in the city center would see the sun dramatically set exactly at the pyramid's flank. Imagine ceremonies on April 29th or August 12th evenings, processions climbing the pyramid 240 steep steps as the sun drops precisely along the pyramid's side, an awe-inspiring sight affirming the city's divine plan. The pyramid summit once likely supported a temple structure, now gone, where priests made offerings. In 2011, archaeologists digging a tunnel at the pyramid's base discovered an elaborate offering deposit at the center. It included a sacred greenstone mask, obsidian blades, skeletons of pumas or wolves with necklaces of imitation human jawbones, birds, and a human figurine. These objects, warlike and precious, suggest perhaps a dedication or consecration offering when the pyramid was built, possibly to sanctify the site for the sun or fire god. The presence of sacrifice, animal and likely human, is in line with Mesoamerican practice of inaugurating major buildings. Interestingly, no royal tomb has been found inside the Pyramid of the Sun, unlike the smaller Pyramid of the Moon, which had burials of sacrificial victims and elite offerings. This supports the idea that the Sun Pyramid was more of a cosmic altar than a royal mausoleum. Centuries later, the Aztecs wove the abandoned Teotihuacan into their mythology, calling it Tolan and claiming the Teotihuacanos were gods or giants. They said it was at Teotihuacan that the gods gathered to create the fifth sun, the current age, by sacrificing themselves. In that myth, Nanahuatzin, a humble god, leapt into a blaze and became the new sun while another became the moon. One can't help but see how the Pyramid of the Sun, with evidence of sacrifices and a massive hearth on top, could have inspired that legend. It's possible Aztec priests, seeing the sun-oriented city and having no historical records of its builders, assumed only gods could have built it. Thus, the pyramid's very existence fueled later myths of the sun's origin at Teotihuacan. Modern science has shed considerable light on the Teotihuacan's astronomical orientation. Surveys show that two slightly different orientations govern the city, 15.5 degrees and 16.5 degrees clockwise from north. One alignment, 15.5 degrees, is embodied by the Pyramid of the Sun and Main Street, tying to sunrise on February 11th and October 29th, which framed the agricultural cycle. The other, 16.5 degrees, is seen in the Ciudadela complex and relates to the sunrise 60 days apart, possibly marking a 260-day calendar sequence. The careful arrangement allowed observers to track the solar year and the 260-day ritual calendar using architectural sightlines. Furthermore, recent research by Mexican archaeoastronomers suggests the Pyramid of the Sun was aligned to the Pleiades setting or certain star alignments. For example, some argue it's oriented to where the Pleiades set on the horizon, which was significant in Mesoamerican timekeeping. The Pleiades zenith passage signaled the new fire ceremony every 52 years in Aztec times. The period of the moon, at the north end, was found to align with the sun rising over a distant volcano, Cerro Gordo, on the summer solstice and setting alignments on winter solstice. If the Pyramid of the Moon and the Sun Pyramid align to solstices and quarter days respectively, it implies Teotihuacan's entire grid was a multi-purpose calendrical instrument. Notably, the city's day 1 might have been the day the sun passed the zenith, no shadow, or when it aligned with Cerro Gordo. Such events would calibrate the calendar annually. Teotihuacan's alignments also influenced later cities. Evidence shows that later cities in central Mexico adopted similar orientation to align with the same sun dates. This diffusion shows that Teotihuacan was a hub of astronomical knowledge that radiated its cultural influence far beyond its fall. The Pyramid of the Sun has fascinated archaeologists since the early 20th century. Leopoldo Batris conducted the first excavations in 1906, unfortunately dynamiting his way into the pyramid and reconstructing parts inaccurately, a practice typical of that era. However, he did discover the entrance to the cave below the pyramid, a major find, though he thought it was a tomb. Later, in the 1970s, systematic tunneling revealed the cloverleaf chambers full of offerings, as mentioned before. In 2011, using a robot, archaeologists probed deeper into the tunnel under the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent at the Ciudadela, another structure, and found liquid mercury pools, but under the Sun Pyramid, no such tunnels beyond the cave have been found. The Teotihuacanos had a penchant for using pyrite, fool's gold, mosaics. The Teotihuacanos had a penchant for using pyrite, fool's gold, mosaics, and pigment to decorate tunnel walls to resemble a starry sky. They might have done similar for the cave, creating an inner cosmos. The pyramid itself has yielded insight into construction. For instance, the existence of 5 superimposed layers. The Aztecs possibly dug into it and created a tunnel to deposit offerings to consecrate it to their own god. For all these findings, many mysteries remain. No definite inscriptions or written records were left, leaving us to piece together the pyramid's meaning through artifacts and alignments alone. By the time the Aztecs found Teotihuacan, around 14th century, it was abandoned for over 700 years. But its pyramids had such aura that they incorporated it as a pilgrimage site. In modern Mexico, Teotihuacan is a source of pride, and the Pyramid of the Sun is emblematic of the country's ancient heritage. Each year, on the spring equinox, which is not an original Teotihuacan ritual date but a modern invention, thousands of people flock to the Pyramid of the Sun to recharge energy. Dressed in white, they climb to the top and raise their arms to the sky as the sun reaches zenith. This New Age ritual shows how the pyramid still functions as a living monument connecting people to the sun's power, much as it might have 1,500 years ago. This is also a theory among Earth grid enthusiasts that Teotihuacan lies on powerful ley lines. Some connect it in speculative maps with sites like Machu Picchu or Easter Island, or see the pyramids as nodes in a planetary energy web. While scientifically unfounded, it speaks to an enduring fascination with aligning Teotihuacan in a global sacred geography. More concrete is the notion that the Teotihuacan influenced the Aztec calendar. The Sun Pyramid's 260-day alignment likely reinforced the importance of that cycle, which the Aztecs later used in divination. The Aztec myth of 5 suns, 5 eras of the world, each ruled by a sun, finds a poignant backdrop at Teotihuacan, a city structured for the sun. In literature and art, the Pyramid of the Sun appears as a motif representing mystery and grandeur. For instance, D.H. Lawrence wrote a poem, The Hopi Snake Dance, referencing it, and many Mexican writers see it as a symbol of national identity, where indigenous knowledge, astronomy, and engineering reached great heights. Standing atop the Pyramid of the Sun today, one can survey the whole Teotihuacan metropolis, the Pyramid of the Moon to the north, the miles of the Avenue of the Dead, and mountains encircling the valley. At certain times of the year, the sun will set in direct alignment with the street, bathing the city in a golden line. It is a visceral demonstration of what recent research confirms. Teotihuacan was a city where men became gods, as the Aztecs said, because they mastered the cosmic order. The Pyramid of the Sun was at the heart of that mastery. An ancient observatory, a temple of sacrifice and renewal, and a giant cosmogram in stone that still speaks of humanity's eternal dance with the sun. As we leave the Teotihuacan Temple of the Sun, we will now head over to Tiwanaku for the Cusco complex and Gate of the Sun. High on the wind-swept Altiplano of Bolivia, near Lake Titicaca, lie the ruins of Tiwanaku, the spiritual center of pre-Inca civilization that flourished between 500 to 1000 CE. Among its enigmatic stone structures, the Cusco Temple and the iconic Gate of the Sun stand out for their solar alignments and intricate iconography. Tiwanaku was a place where earth and sky intersected in ceremonial architecture. Here the sun was revered as both life-giver and part of a complex pantheon. The temples of Tiwanaku reveal a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and a mythology that would later influence the Inca. They also have sparked alternative theories, from being proof of ancient giants to fanciful alignments with Atlantis, a testament to their aura of mystery. The Tiwanaku civilization was a major Andean power, contemporaneous with the classic period of Teotihuacan and later influencing the Inca. Its capital, Tiwanaku, sits about 3,800 meters above sea level. By around 700 CE, it was an urban and ritual hub with massive stone platforms, sunken courts, and monolithic sculptures. The Cusco, meaning standing stones in Aymara, is a large rectangular open temple elevated on a platform. Its walls were made of sandstone slabs and andesite columns, some weighing several tons. Stone gateways allowed access, and within it a famous carved monolith, the Ponce monolith. Adjacent or within Kalasasaya lies a semi-subterranean temple sunken into the ground, with a floor stubbed by stone heads, perhaps representing ancestral or cosmic beings. The most famous artifact is the Gateway of the Sun, a single huge monolith of andesite that was once part of a larger structure now located on the Kalasasaya's western edge. The Gate of the Sun is about 3 meters tall, 4 meters wide, and weighs about 10 tons. When rediscovered by Europeans in the mid-19th century, it was found fallen and broken in two. It has since been stood upright, though likely not at its exact original spot. Scholars suspect it may have originally been in an entryway within Kalasasaya or connected to another platform. The Tiwanaku site fell into ruin after 1000 CE, but when the Inca expanded in the 15th century, they regarded Tiwanaku with reverence, seeing it as the birthplace of Viracocha, their creator god, and possibly where the sun and moon rose after a mythical flood. The Inca name for the Gate of the Sun was Intapinku, same as they called certain sun gates in their own cities, which indicates they saw it as related to solar worship. Tiwanaku's Kalasasaya has long been recognized as a sort of solar observatory. In the 20th century, explorer Arthur Poznansky famously, though erroneously, claimed that extreme archaeoastronomical alignments of Kalasasaya indicated an age of 15,000 BCE for Tiwanaku. A conclusion now discredited. He misidentified stones as solstice markers and didn't account for Earth's axial tilt changes. Modern measurements, however, confirm that Kalasasaya is aligned to cardinal directions and that certain stone pillars mark the sun's positions on the horizon at key times of the year. For instance, viewed from the center of Kalasasaya, the sun rises at specific pillars on the summer and winter solstices. In June, the southern winter solstice, observers at dawn see the sun emerging far north of east, aligning with a corner of the Kalasasaya wall. At December, summer solstice, it rises far south of east, aligning with the opposite corner. The equinox sunrise appears roughly at the center of the eastern wall gate. Similarly, at sunset, the western wall's features align with those events. Excavations have noted sets of stones on the west balcony of Kalasasaya that correspond to a solar calendar. Archaeologist Leonardo Benitez found that pillars along the western side mark quarter points of the year, suggesting a solar calendar based on sunset positions. In essence, Kalasasaya was a giant clock and calendar, used to time agricultural and ritual cycles by tracking the sun's movement along the horizon through the year. Supporting this, each year on June 21st, Indian winter solstice, modern Aymara people and many others gather to Tiwanaku to celebrate the Wilkakuti and the return of the sun, Aymara New Year. As the sun rises, people raise their hands between the stone pillars to catch the first rays, a practice believed to energize and bless the new year. This current tradition likely revives an ancient ceremony. Tiwanaku's priests surely commemorated the solstice as a time of rebirth of the sun. The Spanish chroniclers recorded the Inca, who inherited Tiwanaku's solar law, also celebrated June's solstice as Inti Raymi, the sun festival, with dawn rituals. Indeed, today Tiwanaku's solstice sunrise still dramatically shines through the entrance of Kalasasaya and the Sun Gate if weather permits. The Gate of the Sun itself has a central opening that likely aligned with the setting sun on certain days. Some suggest on equinox afternoon, sunlight would pass through it. Moreover, the gate faces east. On June solstice, the rising sun's rays reportedly pass through its portal and illuminate the back, indicating a solstitial alignment with the gate. This phenomena has made the Sun Gate a gathering point on those sacred mornings. The Gate of the Sun is essentially a freestanding monolithic doorway, famous for the elaborate carvings above its portal. These frieze is a masterpiece of Tiwanaku iconography and is often likened to a cosmic calendar. At the center of the lintel is a deity figure known as Staff God, a figure holding a staff or scepter in each hand with rays emanating from its head. This figure has a stern human-like face with tears or ray lines descending from its eyes. It variously identified as Inti, son of Viracocha, or Thunapa, an Aymara storm god. Many researchers lean towards it representing Viracocha or a pan-Andean creator, sun deity, because later Inca art shows Viracocha similarly with a sun-rayed crown. Surrounding this central figure on the gate are 48 smaller winged figures or attendants, arranged in 3 rows of 16. Originally, there may have been 50 figurines, but part of the frieze is damaged. Of the 48, some have human faces, 32 of them, and others condor or bird heads, 16 of them, and all appear to be running or flying towards the central god. Each little figure holds a staff or object too, and wears a headgear. Their wings and postures suggest they could be messenger spirits or time markers. Some scholars interpret these 48 figures as representing a solar calendar, perhaps 48 weeks or fortnights, or even a multiple of lunar months, though Andean calendars were not strictly 48 weeks. Another interpretation is they represent star or constellation deacons, dividing the night sky for calendrical purposes. The number 48 is close to 52, which resonates with the Mesoamerican calendar, but it's likely coincidental. The central rays around the deity's head number 24, if counting big and small alternations, possibly symbolizing 24 hours or the 12 months. Also, below the central deity are a series of rectangular designs that some think depict celestial cycles, possibly a solstice marker and an equinoctial marker in the form of abstract patterns. In the 1970s, archaeoastronomer Stanislaw Mestrovic proposed that the Sun's Gate's carvings encode a lunar calendar of 292 solar days and 12 months of 24 days. The math is debated. Regardless of the specific calendar readings, the gate clearly symbolizes an orderly cosmos. The supreme god radiates power, surrounded by lesser celestial beings and an organized array. This imagery strongly influenced later Andean art. Inca tapestry and Keros cups feature similar staff god and attendant motifs, showing the continuity of the religious iconography. There is also a tale on local Amun-Ra lore. They call the central figure Thunapa, another name for Viracocha, and say when he appeared, he brought knowledge before a great flood. The tears on the god's face on the gate are often remarked. Some call the deity El Dios Llorón, the weeping god. Perhaps it weeps for humanity's suffering or the rain. Interestingly, Viracocha in Inca myth wept at mankind's wickedness before sending a flood. Such resonances suggest the gate's carvings capture a mythic scene or concept of renewal after catastrophe. The study of Tiwanaku's astronomy began with Poznansky, who, as noted, vastly overestimated the site's antiquity by claiming the Kalisasa alignments only made sense 15,000 years ago when obliquity was different. Modern radiocarbon and stratigraphy firmly date Tiwanaku's peak around 500 to 950 CE, with alignments basically matching the era's sky, taking into account a small adjustment for a few millennia of axial tilt changes. In the 20th century, Bolivian and foreign archaeologists excavated Kalisasaya and re-erected monoliths. They found beneath evidence of earlier phases. It was modified over centuries, perhaps why some alignment stones seem oddly placed. The Sun Gate was found by European traveler Alcide d'Orbigny in the 1840s, lying broken. It was repaired and stood up in 1908 not far from where found. Some debate its original placement. Possibly it was a portal within Kalisasaya or atop the Akapana pyramid. However, its current location on Kalisasaya's western wall works as a frame for the sunrise on the winter solstice, which could very well have been intended. Excavations around the gate uncovered carved stelae and also the Gateway of the Moon, a similar though smaller monolithic gate now in La Paz. All indicate a thematic emphasis on solar and lunar rituals. In recent years, archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar have found tunnels or canals under Tiwanaku's temple structures, likely used for ritual drainage or offerings. Water was a big element. Tiwanaku's monuments often have conduits for pouring libations. Some suggest on solstices, water might have been poured and illuminated by the sun at key moments, a speculation tying natural elements. Tiwanaku, though in ruins, remains a sacred site for the Aymara and Quechua people. As noted, Wilkakuti Aymara New Year each June draws large crowds to Tiwanaku, an officially recognized ceremony since 2010. The Bolivian government and indigenous leaders conduct sunrise rites at Kalisasaya and the Gate of the Sun, including offerings of llama fetuses, incense, and alcohol to Pachamama, Mother Earth, and Inti, Father Sun. This modern festival is a direct cultural descendant of what likely occurred in antiquity. Greeting the sun, symbolically returning the sun to the world, thereby ensuring the cycle of seasons continues. In a sense, Tiwanaku is once again a living temple, at least on that one day a year. Participants often gather around it with hands raised, as the first rays break through the doors opening or above it. For many, the experience is mystical. They describe feeling the cosmic energy of the sun at that portal. The gate has thus become a New Age icon too, sometimes associated with ancient aliens in fringe literature. Eric von Daniken infamously hypothesized spacemen had something to do with Tiwanaku's monoliths. Some esoteric writers correlate Tiwanaku's location with a earth chakra, or say Tiwanaku lies on the Rainbow Serpent ley line, which purportedly connects Uluru in Australia to Lake Titicaca, a line of female earth energy. A mention in a Psychic Studies article claims Uluru connects to Lake Titicaca along the female Great Dragon ley line, known as the Rainbow Serpent, drawing a fanciful link between Tiwanaku's area and global mysticism. While such claims aren't scientific, they reflect Tiwanaku's power to inspire the imagination as a portal between worlds, earth and sky, past and future. Notably, the Gate of the Sun is frequently used as a symbol of Bolivia's heritage. A depiction of it with the staff god appears on Bolivia's national coat of arms and currency, underscoring its importance as a national icon. Apart from the Viracocha myths mentioned, a local lore held that Tiwanaku was built in a single night by giants, or that the stones moved by sound, common themes to explain megaliths. When the Spanish arrived, they were astonished. One conquistador wrote that it seemed impossible humans made such works. An enduring mystery has been Tiwanaku's abrupt collapse. Some say a massive drought ended them. In mythic terms, Aymara folklore sometimes linked it to the idea that the sun once tarried and didn't rise until a hero intervened at Tiwanaku, perhaps an echo of the long night of winter solstice when the sun seems halted. In summary, Tiwanaku's Kalasasaya and Gate of the Sun present a vivid picture of astral religion, carefully aligned stones to the sun's annual course, art that encodes cosmic order, and ceremonies that bound the community to celestial rhythms. These have survived in cultural memory to this day. As dawn breaks on June 21st and illuminates the ancient gateway, one can feel connected not only to the Aymara priests and people gathered in celebration, but also to those ancient Tiwanaku astronomer priests who engineered this monument over 1,000 years ago. The sun's gate remains open, welcoming each New Year's light, bridging an old civilization with the new, and inspiring wonder at the ingenuity of those who track the heavens from the high Andes. As we leave Kalasasaya, we head on over to our last temple, to Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun in Cusco, Peru. In the heart of the Inca capital, Cusco, stands the Coricancha, the fabled Temple of the Sun, which was the most important religious site of the Inca Empire. Coricancha means golden enclosure, and indeed, its walls were once lined with sheets of pure gold, shimmering in the Andean sunlight. This temple was the spiritual nexus of the Inca world, a repository of the empire's most sacred objects, a celestial observatory, and the anchor point of an extensive sacred geography radiating outward in all directions. Though the Coricancha was largely dismantled by Spanish conquerors, its finely carved stone walls still form the foundation of the colonial church of Santo Domingo that sits atop it, providing a stark visual metaphor for the layering of cultures and religions. The Coricancha was considered the center of the universe by the Inca. It was dedicated primarily to Inti, the sun god, who was the patron deity of the Inca state. According to legend, the first Inca king, Manco Capac, son of Inti, founded Cusco by divine mandate, and a temple to the sun existed here from earliest times. Historically, the Coricancha, as seen by Spaniards, was built or greatly expanded by the 9th Sapa Inca, Pachacuti, who ruled 1438 to 1471. Pachacuti is said to have rebuilt Cusco into a planned city and enriched the Coricancha with unparalleled splendor. Chronicler Garcilaso de la Vega, whose own maternal ancestors were Inca nobility, gave vivid descriptions. The Coricancha's rectangular halls had interiors paneled with thick gold plates. A large golden disc representing Inti hung on the wall of the main shrine, positioned to catch the rays of the rising sun. In the courtyard stood a garden of gold and silver. Life-size llamas, corn plants, flowers, and birds, all crafted from precious metal, offered by all corners of the empire. The complex actually housed temples to several celestial deities. Alongside Inti's sanctuary were dedicated chambers for Killa, the moon goddess, which was lined with silver, for Chaska, Venus, for Ilapa, thunder and weather god, and possibly one for Viracocha, the creator. It was thus a pantheon center, but Inti's temple was foremost. The high priest of the sun, called Wilak Umu, officiated here, and during the Inti-Raymi, the sun festival at June solstice, all regional lords convened at Cusco with the Coricancha as the ritual focus. One can imagine on Inti-Raymi, the sun's rays striking the great golden disk at winter solstice, and the Inca emperor and nobility gathered in the courtyard to receive the sun's blessings for the new year. Indeed, Garcilaso relates that Pachacuti formalized Inti-Raymi as an annual event around 1430 CE, with offerings and dancing to ensure the sun's return, likely held first at Coricancha, then continuing at the Fortress Sacsayhuaman above Cusco, as the modern reenactment does. The Coricancha also served a funerary function. The mummies of the Inca emperors were kept here, richly adorned and brought out for ceremonies. Pachacuti reportedly had the bodies of his royal predecessors removed from earlier burial sites and placed in Coricancha on a golden bench, each with attendants and offerings, effectively making them oracles and participants in state rituals. This illustrates how Coricancha embodied Inca cosmology and continuity, uniting the living ruler, the ancestral mummies, and the gods under one roof. Though much of the glory is gone, the Inca stonework of Coricancha still awes visitors. The temple was built in the classic Inca imperial style. Perfectly cut ashlar blocks of hard andesite, fitted without mortar so tightly that one cannot insert a knife blade. The Spanish, who marveled at it, said the stones were so well worked that no cement can be seen. The Incas' famed polygonal masonry technique. The outer walls of the Coricancha form a gentle curve on the west, a masterpiece of engineering still visible as the curved base of the Santo Domingo Church. This curving wall was reportedly covered in gold sheet in the inside, making a dazzling semicircular shrine. The Inca also created a system of trapezoidal niches and doorways in these walls, which not only withstood earthquakes — the Spanish church above collapsed multiple times in quakes, but the Inca walls stayed standing — but also create beautiful lines of sight. For instance, one alignment of 3 trapezoidal windows in Coricancha is famous. Some researchers believe these windows had astronomical significance, aligning it with certain solar or stellar events, hence one is dubbed the Window of the Sun. It is said that on June solstice, sunlight entering the east doorway would project onto the gold disk of Inti inside. The layout of the Coricancha was also symbolic geographically. It was the 0 point of the Sikh system. The Sikh system was a conceptual and ceremonial grid of 41 or 42 lines, Sikhs, radiating from Coricancha to the horizons and beyond, along which were positioned 328 sacred shrines, wakas. This was effectively a sacred geography and calendar. Each waka corresponded to specific dates for rituals. The fact that all Sikhs began at Coricancha underscores the temple's role as cosmic access for the Inca world. The Sikhs were divided into 4 suyus, quarters, of the empire, mirroring Cusco's own quartered layout. Thus, Coricancha was not only a physical temple, but the spatial center of the Inca Empire's ideology, the navel. Cusco itself means navel, from which order and time emanated. Some of the carved stones still in Coricancha's ruins show geometric features possibly used for astronomical observation. For instance, a series of baths or water channels might have reflected stars or measured the sun's zenith passage. The Inca were known to mark the 2 dates where the sun is directly overhead at Cusco, around November 4th and February 8th, by observing it cast no shadow on vertical gnomons, an event likely tracked at Coricancha. The Torreon Tower at Machu Picchu's Sun Temple has similar observation windows. Coricancha likely had such devices. Indeed, early Spanish observers recorded that Incas observed the solstices through the temple's windows. The semicircular wall faces June solstice sunset direction, suggesting that at dusk the light would fall into the temple. Also notable, the walls had a vitrified inner surface. Reports say some interior stones were polished to a high sheen or even a glaze, causing them to reflect lamplight brilliantly, possibly through an unknown Inca stone treatment technique. This would enhance the temple's glow effect at night. Additionally, in one stone block, 3 small holes were found, thought to drain offerings or align with something. When struck, these holes resonate musical tones D, A, and G, implying the temple itself had an acoustic or musical dimension. Essentially, a lithophone feature where tapping these holes could produce a sacred chord. The Coricancha met a tragic fate with the arrival of the Spanish in 1533. The gold and the silver of the temple were among the ransom collected for the captive Inca Emperor Atahualpa. Most of the temple's gold was stripped and melted down to satisfy the exorbitant ransom demand. Garcilaso lamented that the Coricancha's opulence, fabulous beyond belief, vanished in months. The mummies of the emperors were removed. Some sources say the Spanish displayed them as curiosities before they were hidden or rotted. In the 1530s, the Dominican order received the site and demolished much of the temple to build the Church of Santo Domingo by 1633. Indeed, after severe earthquakes in 1650 and 1950, the Spanish church crumbled, but the Inca's walls stayed, becoming exposed again. Today, one can see the juxtaposition. Spanish arches and cloisters sitting atop perfectly fitted Inca masonry. During the 20th century, excavations uncovered some remaining treasures. A cache of gold ornaments was found in a cloister well in 1890, possibly secretly stashed by the Inca priests. The underground museum now displays mummies, textiles, and idols found around Coricancha. Notably, a significant golden sun disk was never found. Legends say the Inca priest spirited it away, perhaps to his secret refuge. Some think it was possibly taken to Lake Titicaca. Coricancha's destruction and conversion is emblematic of the colonial erasure of indigenous religion, yet ironically it preserved what remains. The conquerors valued the quality of the stonework enough to keep large portions intact as foundations. These remaining walls have since become a focus of Peruvian national pride and indigenous resurgence. The Coricancha also has its share of lore. One tale holds that a giant golden chain used in Inca ceremonies, mentioned by chroniclers, was hidden during the conquest, possibly buried somewhere in the Coricancha or Cusco, and remains unfound. Another says that when the Spanish first entered Coricancha, they were blinded by the gold, and the women attendants of the temple fled, carrying as much gold as they could to hide in the hills. There are also stories that Cusco was laid out as a puma shape, Coricancha as the puma's genitals, symbolic of generative power. With the revival of Andean spiritual practices, some shamans consider Coricancha still a living temple in the spiritual realm. They perform offerings outside the church on Inti Raymi and other occasions. In a twist of fate, in June 2020, near the solstice, a fire broke out in the Church of Santo Domingo, and while it threatened the structure, the Inca walls of Coricancha of course did not burn, a poignant reminder of their permanence. This led some locals to say it was Inti reclaiming his temple in a symbolic way. Today, visitors to Coricancha can walk through the remaining Inca chambers inside the convent. The masonry's precision and slight inward lean of walls for seismic stability are plainly visible. In certain rooms, the trapezoidal niches, often filled with idols or gold offerings, are intact, emanating the austere sanctity. Outside in the gardens, the outlines of the temple's floor plan are laid out, and some reconstructed bits show how the shrines were arranged. A replica of the Golden Garden, with a few metal llamas and cornstalks, is on display to spark imagination of its original splendor. Visitors often remark on a special feeling inside Coricancha. Perhaps from the alignment and craft, it indeed feels like a changed space. On June 21st, winter solstice, a ceremony, now more touristic, is held in Cusco, but a smaller ritual offering is sometimes done at Coricancha's courtyard at sunrise. At the summer solstice, December, the sun's rays at dawn strike a specific window in Coricancha, and some observers quietly note it. Despite having been physically overbuilt by conquerors, the Coricancha's essence persists. As long as the sun rises and sets, the people remember to honor it. The Temple of the Sun in Cusco lives on. In Kabbalistic or esoteric terms, if one were to draw parallels, Coricancha might represent the solar center, Tefereth, of the Andean world, a place of beauty, harmony, and mediation between the earthly and the divine. And indeed, For the Incas, the Sun Temple was exactly that, the shining heart of their empire, binding heaven and earth and illuminating the four quarters of their realm. Across continents and ages, humanity's reverence for the sun has inspired some of its most extraordinary monuments. We have journeyed to the chariot-shaped sanction of Konark, where sturdy as stone wheels tell time, from Mexico's Pyramid of the Sun, anchoring a city's cosmic grid, to the high Indian altars of Tiwanaku, where the sun's rays still greet gathered pilgrims, and finally to Cusco's Coricancha, where Inca emperors offered gold and blood so Inti's benevolence would sustain the world. Each solar temple is unique to its culture. Egyptian, Hindu, Mesoamerican, Andean, yet common threads shine through. Alignment with the heavens is one. These sites are deliberately orientated to solar events, solstices, equinoxes, zenith passages, so that architecture and astronomy unite in sacred theater. Whether through the hieroglyphs of Konark proclaiming pharaonic divine order, the erotic carvings at Konark celebrating life's vitality, or the glyphs on Tiwanaku's Sun Gate encoding a cosmic calendar, the art of these temples communicate complex cosmologies. Power and ritual also converge. These temples were stages for state ceremonies and popular devotion alike. Emperors, priests, and pilgrims met the sun's first light or bid it farewell in choreographed reverence. Be it the Opet festival in Thebes, the new fire renewal in Teotihuacan, the Wilcacudi at Tiwanaku, or Inti Raymi in Cusco. Often these rituals were tied to agrarian cycles, underscoring the sun's role as sustainer of crops and kingdoms. In examining these sanctuaries, we also encounter their legends and lore. It is striking how many involve healing or creation. The Samba legend at Konark credits the sun with curing leprosy. The Aztec myth positions Teotihuacan as birthplace of the fifth sun. Andean tradition holds Lake Titicaca, near Tiwanaku, as where the sun first emerged after darkness. Such myths underscore a universal motif: the sun as both physician and progenitor, whom humans must honor to maintain cosmic balance. Far from being brute sun worshippers, they were philosopher-architects encoding sophisticated knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and theology into their construction. Modern science has confirmed many ancient intuitions. For instance, that Karnak indeed lights up on solstice dawn, or that Kalasasaya marks the solar year's division, vindicating the ingenuity of those long gone. Yet these temples are not mere relics to study. They remain living monuments. Whether through continued or revived ceremonies, tourism that inspires spiritual awe, or their symbolic presence and national identity, each continues to cast a long shadow or beam of light into the presence. They also remind us of an older way of living with nature. People built in harmony with celestial cycles, not against them, making the earth itself a temple. In a world now often disconnected from natural rhythms, the solar temples invite us to pause and observe the sun, to celebrate solstices and equinoxes as common human heritage, as our ancestors did with wonder and gratitude. Finally, if there is an occult or esoteric angle uniting them, it might be this: all these sanctuaries sought to mediate between the material and the divine, the below and the above. In Hermetic parlance, the sun is the visible symbol of the invisible creative force. These temples channel that force through ley lines of meaning, if not literal energy, linking far-flung sacred sites around the globe in a spiritual network. Perhaps it is no coincidence that many of them, Karnak, Teotihuacan, Tiwanaku, Cusco, have all been thought to lie on hypothetical global alignments or shared latitudes. Whether or not literal ley lines connect them, symbolically they are connected by humanity's perennial quest for illumination. Each culture filled the sun with its own understanding, yet all saw in a higher truth. In honoring the sun, they honored the source of light and insight, aspiring to align human society with the cosmos. Standing in any one of these temples at dawn, as the first sunlight touches the ancient stone, one can almost hear across time the chants of priests and the gasps of the devotees. The miracle of the sun, that it returns reliably, that it warms and it illuminates, and that it can be tracked and welcomed, binds us in a continuum with those before us. Their temples, though some in ruins, continue to speak of human devotion and genius, of the marriage of science and spirit, and of the hope that light will triumph over darkness each new day. In exploring these solar sanctuaries, we not only learned of their history, but perhaps also felt a spark of the very awe that moved their makers. They remain, in the grand narrative of civilization, bright beacons of our enduring desire to touch the heavens and bring the gifts of the sun down to earth. Hope you all enjoyed, and until the next one,